Hey guys, today is Thursday, December 10th. It's just after 1:30 p.m. and the temperature right now is 6 degrees Celsius. There's a look at the southern entrance to Eglinton subway station. And I'm currently walking north along the west side of Yonge Street towards the intersection of Yonge and Eglinton. And the plan for this one is to turn left once I get to the intersection and walk west along Eglinton Avenue over to Eglinton West subway station. This entire walk should be somewhere around 3.5 kilometers. This neighborhood is in Midtown, Toronto. And this intersection in particular is something of a permanent construction zone. If you talk to anyone in the city about Yonge and Eglinton, they always seem to mention the fact that this intersection is always under construction and is kind of a pain to deal with, whether you're driving, taking the transit, walking, or just trying to pass through on your bike. And the reason for that is they are currently building the Crosstown LRT, which is an underground and above ground light rail line. And there's also a number of development projects right around this intersection itself, such as the e-condos, which recently completed. That's the building I'm currently looking at. And this building here on the southeast corner is slated for redevelopment, as are some of the buildings to the west there along Eglinton. You used to be able to cross over underground to the other side of the street from the subway station, but they've removed that connection as part of the crosstown construction. Let's look north up Yonge Street. And there is the Yonge Eglinton Center. There appears to be some sort of outdoor market going on. I'm not sure how compliant that is with the current restrictions. You could enter the Yonge Eglinton Center there and head down into the food court. I think about half of the restaurants are currently open. And of course, due to the current restrictions, they are limited to takeout only. Here's a look at some of the construction going on. So Eglinton Station currently serves line 1 of the subway, which runs from north to south. However, eventually there will be a connection to the east-west LRT line. And I think this office building just to my right is scheduled for redevelopment shortly. Looks like they want to build a 65-story tower there. There goes an electric bus, which I assume is heading into the bus terminal at Eglinton Station. And rather than walk along all this construction on the north side, I'll cross over to the south side. They started building the LRT line in 2011, although the underground tunneling didn't start till the summer of 2013. It was originally supposed to open this year, and then it got pushed to 2021. And I think currently it's scheduled to open in 2022. Although of the 25 stations, Eglinton Station, which is arguably the centerpiece, as that will be the primary transfer point to get downtown, will not open with the rest of the line. The last I read, the project is over $300 million over budget. And it's already several years late, of course. This building here recently got a new facade. It looks quite nice. Eglinton Avenue is currently served by the 32 bus. When all is said and done, there will be 25 LRT stations. And some of them will be above ground, although the 5 stations I'm covering on this trek will all be underground. I started at Eglinton Station, and up ahead at Avenue Road will be the next stop, which is Avenue Station. And then through the Forest Hill neighborhood will be Chaplin Station. Then after that at Bathurst Street, I think will be Forest Hill Station. And after that will be Eglinton West Station, which will be renamed to Cedarvale. That's certainly going to confuse a lot of people. Rather than stick with a more logical naming convention, they've chosen to name a lot of these stations after their local neighborhoods. I'm sure the people of Toronto will eventually get used to it. And you can see just how difficult it's been for a lot of these smaller businesses to operate with this ongoing construction. In fact, a number of them have already gone out of business and blamed it on the Crosstown construction, including the rather iconic Yitz's Deli, which was formerly just up ahead here on the right. You might remember that featured in an episode of Kenny vs. Spenny. It was a neighborhood fixture for over 47 years. And just across the street there is Eglinton Park. There's an ice rink and large community rec center, I believe. This is LaSalle's Boulevard. And there is a city bike share. And if I'm not mistaken, there's also a swimming pool in those facilities over there. I really should know more about that, seeing as I live in the area. And I don't think I've ever done one of these narrated walks along this stretch. I have ridden my bike along here before. And I think I did a walk in May that started in Little Jamaica and headed east all the way to Eglinton Station. And I've also live streamed through here. I think that was about a couple of months ago. So the next major intersection will be Avenue Road, and that's where Avenue Station will be located. I imagine they'll still have some kind of bus service on this line, as the stations are a bit far apart for people with mobility impairments and that sort of thing. And there's a local institution, the Burger Shack. People often talk fondly of Apache Burger out in the West End. I would say the Burger Shack offers a very similar experience to that. And this is Oriole Parkway. You could take this south and it'll eventually merge into Avenue Road, and you could follow that into downtown. And it looks like they refer to this neighborhood as the Eglinton Way. That's certainly not something I've ever heard anyone refer to it as. Here is Kushi. This is a Korean-owned Japanese izakaya. Looks like they're selling sake and beer for takeout. That's really a tough kind of business to keep going when they're limited to takeout only. Izakayas are really all about the experience of eating in. And there's part of Avenue Station going in. They had to expropriate and demolish a number of buildings to make way for these stations. There's an old pub, the Queen's Legs. I've been there a number of times. A few years ago, they switched their kitchen over from more traditional pub fare to Chinese food. So I think, like a lot of restaurants these days, they're kind of fronting for different restaurants to sell through Uber Eats and other delivery services. And this here would be the main intersection of Avenue and Eglinton. Again, due to the construction on the north side, I will stick to the south side. You could take Avenue Road north to Highway 401. There's a new cannabis shop that's recently opened. That's one kind of business that seems to be thriving during the pandemic. And just to the south here, Avenue Road comes to a rather abrupt end at Upper Canada College, and then it continues on the other side. So Oriole Parkway, which I alluded to earlier, is one way to get around that. And that orange sign over there is where Yitz's Deli used to be. I think the owner cited the Crosstown construction as the reason for their demise. Although if that didn't do it, surely the pandemic would have. It's actually a pretty nice day. I'm just wearing a thick sweater, no coat required. It's only 6 degrees, but it's not windy. And I can't remember the last time the sidewalk right there wasn't covered up by construction. Whatever kind of compensation these businesses were getting due to the Crosstown construction, it certainly doesn't seem to be enough. And there's an Oliver Jewelry. If you live in the Toronto area, you've certainly seen that guy all over the TV with his rather obnoxious commercials. And just across the street is a rather nice old Art Deco style theater, the Eglinton Grand. I think that dates back to the mid-1930s. It's currently more of an event space than a theater, but I do think they still do some movie showings. I've seen some wedding parties going in and out during the summer, not this summer of course, but in previous ones. I think much of the surrounding residential areas could certainly be described as upper middle class. There's not much in the way of high-rises or high-density housing around here. I say that as I walk by a block of apartment buildings. This is Castle Knock Road. And the Nomad Steakhouse. The sign looks pretty new, but it says Victory Menswear in the window. Oh, I see what happened. It looks like the steakhouse rented out their window space to the menswear shop. And across the street there is the House of Chan. They used to be located to the west of here, just west of Bathurst Street. And despite the Chinese appearance, that's actually a steakhouse. Although I do think they have some American-style Chinese offerings. And I think they've been around for almost 50 years. And it looks like there's some construction coming up on the south side, so I'll cross over. There's a look east down Eglinton. Those tall buildings way off in the distance are about where I started. So the next station we'll be walking by that's under construction is Chaplin Station. The Crosstown line will go as far west as the Mount Dennis neighborhood, and to the east, I think it'll stop at Kennedy, where there's a GO station and Line 2 or RT connection. I can't quite remember which one it is right now. Someone will clearly correct me on that. There was originally to be an Eglinton West subway line that would have gone west from Eglinton West Station over to Renforth, which is right along the border of Mississauga. But in 1995, when Mike Harris and the PC government took over and took charge of the province, they canceled that project. And they agreed to keep the Shepherd subway line project, which was also under construction. But that one was neutered into a rather incomplete 5-stop stump of a subway line. In hindsight, they certainly would have been much better off going with the Eglinton line rather than the Shepherd line. And in general, that was a rather disastrous time for the province of Ontario. The province had constructed another highway north of the 401, which is North America's busiest highway, known as the 407, which was or still is, an express toll highway. And they sold the rights to it for a 99-year period to a Spanish-led investment group. And they sold it for just over $3 billion, and recently that entire project has been valued at $30 billion. That has to be one of the worst financial deals in the history of this province. They certainly could have funded countless transit projects with that money over the years. It's rather short-sighted thinking of that government. They took the money while they're in office, not thinking of the long-term ramifications at all, or they probably were, they just didn't care. That was also at a time when a lot of teachers were laid off. There was a lot of turmoil over that. And here's where Chaplin Station is being built. And I'm passing through the extremely affluent Forest Hill neighborhood. To the south of here is known as Forest Hill South, and to the north is Forest Hill North, of course. All right, I thought that light was never going to change. There's a look back at the soon-to-be Chaplin Station. It certainly doesn't look like we'll have a fully completed station here in a couple of years, especially not at the rate of construction they've been moving at. And they recently announced the livery of the LRT trains. They really look like elongated streetcars, not so much subway trains, but rather than go with the iconic red look of the TTC streetcars, they've opted for a rather bland gray color. And just below me here is the Beltline Trail. This would be the K. Gardner Beltline Trail that runs up here from Yonge and Davisville. And it sort of heads northwest towards Avenue Road, and then, or rather Allen Road, and then on the other side of that, you can connect to the York Beltline Trail. And to the east, there's the Moore Park Ravine section of the trail. So it's divided in 3 sections. Yeah, it's a rather pleasant nature walk across Midtown Toronto. So as I was saying, the LRT vehicles will be gray, and I think their reasoning was to make them look like the subway trains, which are gray, although since they will be above ground and running down the middle of the street in some areas, I would think the color red you see on the streetcars would be much nicer and far more appropriate. It's either that or give them their own unique color scheme. The RT uses blue cars, the subway uses the gray silver cars. The streetcars are red, so why not something completely new for the LRT cars? And here is a library just on the right. That's the Forest Hill Branch Library. And there's the Forest Hill Collegiate Institute. There's no doubt a lot of wealthy students attending there. or rather students from wealthy families. But I think once all is said and done, this LRT line will be an excellent addition to the Toronto transit system. Whoa. Gotta give that truck some credit for not even honking at that guy who dangerously turned right out in front of him. That's two vehicles that didn't stop at a stop sign. This guy opting to roll right through the marked crossing. And just up ahead is Old Forest Hill Road. You could go north or south on this road and come across a lot of beautiful houses. I've recorded some videos along here in the past, and I'm sure I will be back. And it looks like I'll be running into a bunch of construction just up ahead, so I'll cross back over to the south side. Do I have to press the light? Or the button, rather? Maybe I can. All right, it seems safe enough. If you couldn't have guessed, this isn't the most pedestrian-friendly of areas lately. And just up ahead is the intersection of Eglinton and Bathurst. And rather than naming this Bathurst North or Eglinton and Bathurst, they've chosen to call it Forest Hill Station. So Metrolinx has abandoned an already established naming convention. Does this guy see me? He waves. Thank you. I don't think he's supposed to be parked there in the first place, but all is well. So this is the third new station under construction I've walked by, and the fourth in total if you include Eglinton. And it's a bit of a maze to circumvent this intersection as a pedestrian. You have to take a pretty big detour whether you're going around it on the north side or the south side. And this place has been a total mess for as long as I can remember. Just like the intersection of Yonge and Eglinton, there are no left or right turns. And it looks like I could probably just cross here and go left, and we can get a look right alongside the new station going in, although I'm not too confident that I won't be sent on some massive detour. Let's see where this side leads me. That truck wants to turn, but he can't because this rental truck is where he wants to go. I'd love to see how this plays out. It seems a bit odd to me just how much space these new stations are taking up. They've demolished entire buildings and displaced countless businesses, all in really prime spots along Eglinton. Here's a rather nice residential street. Look how huge this area is. If you're wondering, I did wave this lady through. I'm sure these back alleyways provide a useful shortcut. And just across the street there, where the station is going in, used to be where House of Chan was. It's really phenomenal, the amount of space they're taking up. I've seen entire subway lines in Seoul get built where I lived there. And you wouldn't even know there was a station being built. There would just be a little pop-up out of the sidewalk with some stairs you could head down into. And that was a proper subway, not even an LRT line. I'm not an engineer or a transit expert, but I'd love to know the reasoning for this. Caniculture cannabis store. I should have started counting the number of cannabis stores along the way. There goes a Land Rover with a New York plate. That's not something you see a whole lot of these days. Although it is starting to look like sometime around spring we should start to see the land border reopen and things get somewhat back to normal. The Canadian government did recently approve the first of the many vaccines they're looking at. Maybe I'll cross over to the other side for a bit. So up ahead at Allen Road and Eglinton will be Eglinton West subway station, which will be renamed Cedarvale after the immediate neighborhood it is in. And to my knowledge, the bus bays there are still closed. So to take the 32 bus back to Yonge and Eglinton, which is actually around where I live, I'll be hopping on one of these 32 buses. And the street sign here says Upper Village on it. Again, I don't live too far from here and I have never heard anyone refer to it as Upper Village. Oh, right there it says no pedestrian access beyond 1220 Eglinton Avenue West. Maybe there's a pedestrian crossing that way. I'll definitely come back here next year, hopefully once things are reopened, and take a look around just to see what the landscape looks like, how many more businesses have closed, maybe some new ones have emerged. This isn't really a destination neighborhood. Not too many people would come here from other parts of the city to go out and shop and eat. And I think that plays into the local businesses' favor. If they're more dependent on a local crowd that is still likely to support them during these current restrictions. I'm not really a fan of this style of development along a major street. You'll see this even more towards downtown along Queen Street. There's a few stretches along Leslieville that are like this, and to the west. and Dundas and other major streets where you'll just see an apartment complex rather than retail development. So had I have continued on the northern side of Eglinton Avenue, as a pedestrian, where would I have been able to cross? You'd think they would put a crossing in here, and it looks like they have actually at Allen Road. And that is the end of Allen Road, just off in the distance, right where Eglinton West Station is undergoing a reconfiguration. As like Eglinton Station to the west of here, this will also be an interchange between Line 1, that would be the university side of Line 1, and the new Crosstown LRT. And let's see what kind of detour we get led on. Allen Road was originally going to be the Allen Expressway, and it would have gone south all the way through downtown and ran right up alongside Casa Loma, and then down Spadina, so Chinatown as we know it wouldn't exist. I think it would have utterly destroyed the landscape of downtown had it have gone through, so thankfully that project was averted. So it only comes as far south as Eglinton. There's usually a rather large backup of traffic if you're taking it to come south this way. And the sun is making an appearance. It's been mostly hiding under the clouds most of this walk. And I don't even know the name of this park. I couldn't see a sign on my way in. There's a sign, but I can't read it from here. This sure looks pedestrian friendly. I guess we'll find out very soon if the bus bays are open yet. I thought they would have been by now. This station is being reconfigured into something of a hub where you'll be able to transfer between the two lines. So I think it's a lot more complicated what they're doing here and to Eglinton Station. Than on any other subway stations right now in the city. And I think I see the temporary bus bays are still set up. There's a look at where the Allen Road feeds into Eglinton. And there's Eglinton West Subway. And the area straight ahead of me is known as Little Jamaica. A few months back, I recorded a night walk along Little Jamaica, so if you're interested in checking that out, you can look for it on the channel. Although it's not officially known as Little Jamaica. That's certainly what the residents call it. And we have found our way to the bus stop. So as required by the TTC, I've got my mask on, although it's always crooked. It's nice to see the wind wreak some havoc. And here's the bus. All right, I hope you enjoyed this walk along Eglinton Avenue. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and comments down below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.